What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and this is Fallout Season 1, Episode 7. I'm now one episode away from the season finale of Fallout. Look at that. This has audio description. It's on Amazon. I think last time I credited Ron Snow. That was because somebody else told me it was Ron Snow, because the way that, at least for me, Prime works is if there is an episode left for me to push, it'll push me into the next episode. Um, it'll just start to load it. So I never get to the end of the credits until I'm actually on the last episode. And since I haven't watched episode 8, I don't actually know who the narrator is. So, yeah, it's interesting. So it keeps trying to push me into the next episode. So I've never actually caught it in time to be able to credit it. And then I saw online somebody was like, wow, I really love Ron Snow's narration on Fallout. And I was like, oh, okay, Ron Snow, cool. I loved it. I didn't think it sounded like Ron Snow, but all right. And then Ron Snow's been dead for 4 years, so he definitely did narrate Fallout. So that was wrong. That was an incorrect. This is my retraction, but I'm trying to explain also where that came from. So I usually don't just trust random sources, but I was like, oh, I don't know why else they would be citing Ron Snow, so it's got to be right, because they must have seen the end of the thing. So, anyway, Fallout. We pick up on a lot of stories. Everybody's stories. We see more of the ghoul and more of his flashbacks too, to connect him to obviously who this I don't know, I want to say final boss, but I know that there's so much build up to this character that she's been called like multiple things. Even in the flashback, she like Mrs. Kennedy or something like that, Mrs. something. She's a real name. She was back in his period, so she's probably some version of a ghoul since she's been alive for, I don't know, like 100 years. So yeah, it's the ghoul is looking to take somebody out that he knows from his past, who is now leading this cult of people and causing a ruckus. And we see sort of like where he met her and like what her original stance on everything was. And she was very anti-Vault, and saw that they were, buying up everything back in the day, and she used to run like a cold fusion company, and they bought it, and then she was like, well, this was the kind of thing that we were trying to develop that would have solved a lot of the world's problems, but they bought it and then shelved it. So like they're trying to make the apocalypse happen, is what she was saying, and he just didn't want to hear it. So interesting conversation between those two. And of course, he, as the ghoul, he's trying to figure out where she is. So he finds this house of this former member, and tracks down this family that was related to this guy he'd already killed. And the dad is there with his younger son. And, he's asking, do you know the location? And the dad's like, no, I haven't talked to my son for 2 years. He left and went off with that crazy lady. Turns out the younger son's been talking to, and he's slowly been getting radicalized, and his dad didn't know about it. Let's say the ghoul fixes that real quick. And then leaves. So he's off. He's headed off. He did pick up the dog. We did see that the ghoul ends up with the dog that's been running around all season long, that was following the squire, who's carrying the head around, who we do catch back up with in this episode. He meets a snake oil salesman. Literally, that's the name of the character. And who's in the middle of trying to kill himself. And then he makes a bargain and gives up the core. This guy's an idiot. Anyway, and then takes this random drug that will supposedly heal his foot. Well, it does, but it also does something else to him too. So that he finds out later. And then Maximus goes in and he hears his lady being taken off by the fish people, by the mutants. And even though she finds out that she's just being let go and with supplies, they're like, we're banishing you to the outside and you're likely going to die, but don't worry, we're going to give you 2 weeks worth of supplies. It's kind of a really funny scene. And she's like, what? Really? Seems really nice of you guys. She finds out that she was wrong about them, that the experiments were done basically to them, and they're the results of these experiments that were done by the original people who lived in the vault. So, so Maximus steals the core, puts it in his suit, and then goes in and tries to rescue her, and then basically she gets him to give up the core so that they can leave and leave the people with the core so that way they can have power. So they do the right thing. And he eventually levels with her about the fact that he may not be the best person that she's ever known, and tells her the truth about him not being Titan and being Maximus. And so that's good. She knows where he's at, but she seems to like be accepting of his story and is not like, she's still just sort of like based on the time she spent with him, feels like she knows that he's a decent guy that makes good choices. So whatever choice he was in probably was the right one at the time. So we're left in a place where she gets to maybe run off with the head and trying to get her dad back, and meanwhile he's left with a head, and he's about to be picked up by his squad since his squire called in resources, but he had to save that dude because turns out that dude's a ghoul now from taking the thing. So he's another undead man walking around. So we'll see what happens in the season finale, but some pretty cool stuff. I've been enjoying Fallout. I think it might actually get an Emmy nomination. I think this is The Last of Us for this year. I think it's probably going to pop. I'm looking at the competition, and I think this might have enough juice in it to get a drama series nomination. I don't know if it can get any acting nominations beyond that, but I wouldn't be surprised if this slid into the drama series category. Just as a side note, just to let you know, I think it's going to happen for Fallout. I think it's popular enough. It got a really quick season 2 renewal. Meanwhile, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they've been doing press for their show, and Maya Erskine and Donald Glover have been basically saying that they need the Emmy nominations and get a second season, which is crazy for me. It's just like, really? Okay. I thought that show had enough of an audience. Guess not. It's amazing that streaming, you think a show is popular. Like, it took Netflix like months to renew Free Body Problem for a second and final season. Weird. So I'm gonna let's wrap this one up. I'll give Fallout season 1 episode 7 an A. I enjoyed it. I thought it tied everything together nicely, and it had a lot of humor to it, a lot more humor than a lot of the other episodes have had. So it was a fun episode. It was a much more fun episode than usual. So we'll see what happens in the season finale. Forgot to bring up the fact that Norm is in the vault and he ends going into the 31 or whatever, and literally ends with like, he sees something that we can't see, and we'll find out what that is. So Anyway, that but I'll talk about that in the finale. See you guys on the other side.